Ron.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to go ahead and call the Tuesday, May 4th, 2021 Board of Alderman meeting to session. If you would stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item would be the consent agenda.
We have the regular and executive session minutes from April 20th, 2021.
Sorry. Regular and executive. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump. Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Jaspering.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next, we'll be hearing from the public. If you have something to say, I would ask for you to step to the podium, state your name, and we'll give you 5 minutes to speak.
I did receive an email today
Excellent.
this afternoon at 2:02 p.m. Josh Poor sent an email regarding subject, it just states bill. It says Bill 21-24 will be introduced by Alderman Cullum at tonight's meeting. This bill has broad public support, and if it is passed, it would allow the public more time to weigh in on bills in the future. It will also allow members of the board to review bills in a more thorough manner. Recently, there have been instances when just over 24-hour passes from the time a bill is placed on the agenda to the time the bill becomes an ordinance. This brief window of time is sufficient for all parties involved. Progress in Warrenton does not only require a different ideology, but it also requires a new approach in the process of making laws. This bill puts forth a proposal that would increase transparency and lead to more accountability. I urge the board to support Bill 24-21, and I assure you that the public is paying close attention to the outcome. Josh Poor.
Thank you. Any other emails or letters? Anyone on Zoom or anybody tying in?
No Zoom. We're all
Excellent.
back in public.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Next, we'll hear from Board of Alderman comments. Anyone?
I'd like to say a couple things. First of all, because of it seemed like such a short meeting last 2 weeks ago when I was first here. Everything kind of went by pretty swiftly. So with that being said, I'd just like to throw out a couple thank yous to my wife Karen and my son Morgan for all the help they did for my campaign, to all my friends that encouraged me to run for this position, and most of all the voters from Ward 1 that put their trust in me. And I sure hope that if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. I look forward to working with you, Mayor, and the rest of the Board of Aldermen here in Warrenton for the betterment of the community. So thank you, and I look forward to the next couple of years. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone else? So I will say the first meeting is the hardest. Kind of get used to and get in the flow of things. But I will say, once again, like I did last meeting, you guys jumped in and participated, and I appreciate that because it does kind of alleviate the pressure on the rest of the board during decisions on different ordinances or anything in the meeting that would require a roll call vote or a submission for votes from the board. And you guys jumped right in and did it. So thank you, because a lot of people usually get intimidated the first time. It's a little, you don't know how to say it, what to say, what to do. So I appreciate that, and as always, thank you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. with the mayor, or approve the board of committees for 2021. Before we do that, I'm going to say this is something collectively we've kind of talked about and sent out information on to see what preferences maybe some of the aldermen would want to be representatives to. It doesn't mean that they go in and they speak or do anything else. What they're there to do is collect information, or if they're given something that they need to do, make comment on, they're supposed to bring a lot of the information back to the board and help them with what is being said at the different other board meetings, such as Parks Board, Tourism, Planning and Zoning. It just helps us out, because some of us can't always be there to see those meetings. With that, Brayden, do you want to read those just so we can, at least the people out there would see what, or know what it is?
Sure. The Development Committee is Alderman Delaloy, Alderman Corder, and Alderman Cullum. Operations Committee is Alderman Crump, Alderman Delaloy, and Alderman Cullum. The Downtown Committee is Alderman Crump, Alderman Schnultz, and Alderman Jaspering. The representative to the Planning and Zoning Commission is Alderman Corder, and the representative to Park Board is Alderman Schultz, and the representative to Tourism is Alderman Jaspering.
Excellent. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to approve the mayor's appointments for the board committees for 2021.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Crump. Roll call vote.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Corder,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Jaspering,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. Next will be the change to section 105.100, procedure to enact ordinances. I believe this is brought up by Alderman Cullum. If you want to go ahead and carry forth with that.
Yeah, basically what I'm proposing is a simple change, that we're not bringing up new agenda or new ordinances in one board meeting and then voting on them in that same meeting. I feel like it doesn't give you, the people, and the people of the town and us the proper time to hear from the people and/or investigate or, learn about it ourselves. So it just gives us all time to get as much information as possible as far as transparency and, know what's going on. So basically it just changes the word. It adds the word "not," meaning you cannot bring up and vote on a new ordinance or a change to an ordinance in the same meeting.
Any questions? New ordinance?
Alderman Cullum, I just had a couple questions here on that. When you were researching that and looking into it, just to help me out, because I'm obviously new to the position, can you give me any kind of examples or anything of bills or that were passed that may have been needed to have more than a couple hours or whatever the time frame may have been to look at them?
I do not know of any at this current time. I think it's just more of, staying ahead of it so it doesn't happen. It's something that some people in my ward have brought up to me and voiced their concern about, so that's why I felt to bring it to the board tonight.
Okay. My big concern is that right now, we may be tearing down fences as new aldermen that we don't know the reason they were built. I don't have any problem with your bill or your request at all. My concern is that if we have an opportunity to change interest rates or purchase property or something like that, that it may need to be done in an evening versus waiting a 2-week period, costing the community more money. Now, with that being said, I would like to add to your bill. However, I need to request to do that. Can I just, Chris?
So procedurally right now, it's really just a agenda item for discussion. I know it's on for first reading and you can have a subsequent discussion. So I think Alderman Corder, from a procedural Robert's Rules of Order standpoint, you can just voice what you're considering or amendments or various whatnots that you're considering, that you can then, when the bill is actually read, you can offer an amendment, they can vote on the amendment and go from there. Sorry, my mic's not on. You can offer the amendment, vote on the amendment, discuss it, go from there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead,
Oh,
sorry.
okay. So with that, my thought on this, that if, what I think we ought to consider, I have no problem with Alderman Cullum's not in there at all. The thing that I look at here is that if the board deems a bill important, time-sensitive, it could vote to read the bill twice and vote on that bill at a meeting. However, that request must carry a 2/3 majority yes vote by the Board of Aldermen. I don't feel that waiting 2 weeks is an issue or not, but I also believe that if we need to pass a bill for whatever that person or whatever that issue may be, I think that we could be more than willing to have a 2/3 vote to bring that to the floor.
I agree with what you're saying. Again, I don't think that there'd be that many last-minute issues, but I agree that'd be a good idea to have something in there. And maybe
Yeah,
Chris has something.
I'm happy to weigh in on any questions you guys have. Obviously, I represent other cities. This is not a discussion that is unique to the city of Warrenton. I have 4 other cities that have had this discussion before about reading bills, and I can give you some of that experience for you guys to kind of discuss about how that's worked out with other cities. If you guys want to discuss that, that's fine.
You know, I know Brandy does. I asked Brandy to get some information together, just for educational purposes only. I think it's a great bill. I think there's a lot of positivity to bringing some transparency. The only issue that I see in it is that the reason why we did the two readings in one meeting was due to some businesses were saying they were waiting too long through planning and zoning and other issues, and it was extending the time frame of them to be able to proceed with the business that they have, or a developer as well. It's not trying to rush the process so that people don't see it, because that process is given time through planning and zoning and through other things when it becomes that. But I mean, I think you could be selective on which ones would do a second reading on the second call, versus some that they've already waited for a month and a half, as it is for P&Z, and then we're making them wait another 2 weeks to another month possibly for another.
That's my concern. The additional time is going to add back to it that we took out of it because everybody was honest about how hard it was to work with. So I don't want to add more time to it.
I guess I feel that most of this stuff would have already been brought up in those meetings, like planning and zoning, those kind of things. So I guess what I'm talking about here is just new stuff that, and I get what you said about last minute things, and I agree. Maybe we should add something, whether it's 2/3 or a majority, if it's a last minute thing that needs to be passed. So again, it's just, something to bring up and talk about. And like you said, Chris, maybe it's something we can kind of see how other cities have it written into their code, something like that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, on this, but when we say not, that means not, correct?
Right. I can give a little bit of experience. I can tell you, like I said, this is a discussion that comes up in other cities a lot. And my experience is there can be some draconian unintended consequences that can occur because, and I think really, and I think the mayor alluded to this earlier, you really have to look at what business are we doing via ordinance? How's that breaking down? And where are some, because I kind of read a couple of different messages. Is it an issue of items going too late on the agenda? Steve, like Alderman Cullum, you kind of identified that as one of the issues. There was a couple of instances, and I think Mr. Poor's email, where things were put on the agenda late, which I think is a separate issue because a lot of cities will institute cutoff days that say, hey, if it's not on the agenda by Thursday, you can add it, but you have to have a 2/3 vote to add it to the agenda at the board meeting and have an explanation why. There's a policy-driven idea there. I have some concerns about this in dealing with other cities, because I know cities that have done it and said it can't be that way, and then they realize operationally they peel some of that back, depending on what those cities approve by ordinance. And different cities approve different things by ordinance.
Can I ask you a quick question? The way the ordinance is written now, I mean, I'm by no means am I an expert on this. I'm going to tell you, and like I've told all the other aldermen, there are some ordinances we need to review, because I think they've become dated, or something's changed that we need to look at and maybe do. But as it's written now, does it really stop us from asking for a 2-week wait for
No.
a second reading?
No, I think that's a great point, Mayor. The way the ordinance is written, the way the process works right now is the mayor calls for the first reading. The board votes to do the first reading, okay? So at that point, the board, in their discretion as elected aldermen, can decide, we don't want to do the first reading tonight, and it can go on a future agenda. You could spread it out to 3 meetings if it was an ordinance you wanted to do it on. There is a vote to read it. It's read the first time by the city clerk. Then the mayor calls for a second reading, and there's a vote at that point in time to read it for the second time at that night. So this is not, the way it's right now, it is completely within the discretion of the Board of Aldermen as that bill comes up to read it once or twice at that particular time. This will take away the ability and your all's discretion to be able to do that. This is, you can't do that. You lose that ability to do that. So the way it's written right now is you all have the ability to say it's within your discretion as a body to vote to read it for a second time. You all vote to do it. I think we kind of mechanically go through it because we just get so used to doing it when we pass an ordinance, but that is actually the procedure that occurs as you're going through this. So, you know, it makes me nervous to jump in because I know what a black and white rule like this does operationally in my other cities. They peel it back, they find ways to work around it, and sometimes they just ignore it because it becomes an operational headache because certain things get approved that go on the agenda later. Contract, where I see in Warrenton things getting put on the agenda late consistently over the last 10 years, it's memorandums of understanding where we have an intergovernment cooperative agreement, and it just takes a while for the two government entities to get there. I don't know what, I know there was a reference to some things that were put on late. I don't know what those items were, but in our experience, those are the hardest things to get on the agenda sooner. This will remove your discretion. If you pass this ordinance, you will say, we cannot do that. We will not do that. You all have right now the ability, when an ordinance comes up, to say, you know what, this one, I need some more time to think about it. I vote against reading it for the second time tonight. So you're absolutely right, Mayor. There is discretion. Nothing keeps you all from reading a bill a second time at a future meeting. And it could be any future meeting. You could decide. This now says you absolutely cannot do it. There's no exceptions built in. And I think Brandy would have to speak more to whether or not kind of this draconian rule how and in what way would it affect operations. So, Mayor, you all have the discretion as a body right now to decide on a case-by-case basis, we want this to go to a future meeting. This will remove that discretion from the body.
And I don't want it to be mistaken. I'm not bringing this stuff up. I do like the fact that we have aldermen that are looking for more transparency, and I think everybody on this board has worked hard at getting transparency as far as doing a yearly audit in case we're ever asked. We can give it out as discretionarily needed or asked for, and we've been really good about trying to keep up on sunshine requests and everything else. You know, I think it is good to hold that accountability. I think Alderman Cullum makes a great point on holding accountability and transparency. I also think we have in the past, not many times, I think maybe 2 to 4 times I can remember us tabling any type of ordinance or bill that we've asked, or ordinance we've asked to enact, because we had a lack of information or something was discussed during the meeting that we needed more information on, and it was real simple just to ask for it to be tabled, and we made a vote on it, and we all agreed to table it. You know, for further information, or to have our attorney or our city administrator do more information or gather more information from other cities to see if it's any way to enhance it or change it in any way. Or, like I said, some people have been to other towns and seen the way they've done things and didn't like the way the ordinance was written, period. So, those are all things, but I did want I asked, Brandy and I talked about a little bit about this, and we both felt there was a lot of, there were a lot of good things about it for the transparency, but I also felt like we needed to put out the numbers on different things too. So if you want to go ahead and present that.
Sure. So after Alderman Cullum sent this to us, we started doing some research on this. We are all about, we want to be more transparent, staff and I both. So one of the things that we went back and looked at is the last 5+ years, so from 2016 until current, kind of classified all the ordinances and bills that have been passed and put those into 4 different categories. Code changes, just as they say, that's corrections to the code, whether that's by complaints or driven by the board in our planning meetings, or legislative changes, anything like that, such as, and sometimes those are in a hurry, sometimes they're not, such as like the solar panels. Any of you that were here during that, we were trying to get those so they didn't build solar panels that were 10 feet tall. So another category was business and development. Those include like your site plans, conditional use permits, all of those kind of things that have already been to planning and zoning and had a public hearing done at that time. So site plans, for any of you that aren't aware, site plans and conditional use permits, those are all of our developers. So your stores, your businesses, your subdivisions, all of those guys, that's all kind of lumped into there. Projects and contracts, those are mostly city projects or contracts that need to be signed, and we have to do an ordinance to give the mayor authority to sign those. Those projects have already been in front of you during the budgetary process. So you've already kind of seen those projects. It's just that finalization of it. And the 4th category we put those in was miscellaneous city business, and that includes like your annexations, bonds, budgets, those kind of things. The next slide, that one shows that our biggest component each year, it looks like in 18, 19, and part of 20 was code changes. And if you remember back in 18 and 19, that's when we did all of those building code changes and updated all of that, planning and zoning. So that was in 18 and 19. Last year, we were kind of just buttoning it up and getting all that done. So that was a lot of our changes. Some of you, like Mayor said, recall in 2016, we met with the Home Builders Association, and that was when they were really big about the time frame that it takes to get stuff through the city. So that's when we started doing conditional use permits and their preliminary plats, whatever we could do on one meeting at all possible to get that through faster for them. Then also on, the other question I had was, as far as the amended agendas, was why are we amending agendas? How often are we amending agendas? And that kind of thing. So we kind of did some research on that and how many have been amended. So as you guys all know, last year and part of this year, COVID has hit us really hard. So we had people working from home, people working in the office. So that kind of really, that's why our numbers in 2020 and 2021 have been so high, I believe, as far as amended agendas, is just our communication. So I think that's been an issue with our amended agendas, and those have been, majority of those have been general business. So it could have been in 2020, we had some that were just changing the Zoom information or changing the location of the meeting. We had amended an agenda to do that because the agenda said one thing, but we were actually doing something different. So it wasn't all ordinance based. So if you go and you look at the next slide, I kind of took the ordinances, the general business, those were not ordinances that was changed. We had a code change, we had projects and contracts that were added. Those were all part of the amended agendas. So we really only had 3 categories in the last 5 years where we've actually had ordinances on the amended agendas. So that just kind of gives you some of the statistics and from the background of things. Moving forward, one of the things that I think that I'll take responsibility for is amending the agendas. Is if it's not something that absolutely has to be on that meeting, then we move it to the next meeting. So we don't have that we have more transparency, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So the public doesn't feel like we're hiding something. Another thing to help also with transparency is maybe we look into the fact that some cities, they have when they post their agendas, they have hyperlinks to everything the board packet has. So any of the ordinances or anything that's in your board packet, they do hyperlinks or they do PDFs. So that way the general public can get on the website and they can look at everything at the same time that you get it. So that might be even something else that we could move forward with. And just like Chris said that once you change that, then we don't have that. We're going to lose some of that with the businesses as far as the quickness of getting things through.
Alderman Cullen.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to ask Alderman Cullen, one thing you brought up, and I was kind of brainstorming on this, and I'm just going to ask it. I think that we do, I don't want to say we could do better at educating the public or getting more information out to the public on ordinances. I mean, I know isn't that one of your concerns about trying to get more education out there on what it is if somebody's interested in looking into it or even coming to speak on it so they can get a little more information on it before they come and speak?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I agree with them. I think that is something we need to work on. You know, there again, that's what this is for. It brings up things that we can do, and I think, honestly, guys, it's not a small topic. I think this is something we could actually hold a workshop on eventually, and I know you guys think I'm meeting things to death, and maybe I do ask for too many meetings, but I think it's something that the public should go ahead and bring input on different things to change, and we can kind of look at that and see on how to educate the public better. Different things that maybe cities do that we're not aware of, that, you know, people that have moved here have seen their other cities do. It's something we can look at implementing. I mean, we can try and educate ourselves as much as we can. We're always going to miss things that maybe somebody else can bring up and educate us on for how we can push more information out there.
Chris, can you give me any idea of when your other 3 cities set their agenda? I mean, the day,
Yeah.
the time of the week, the date, those type of things?
I think, yeah, there are some cities that I represent that, you know, the notice under the Sunshine Law is 24 hours. There are some cities that require the final agenda to be posted 48 hours in advance. Now, that becomes cumbersome because there are things that occasionally comes up, but I think operationally, any city's going to adapt to it. And I think Alderman Corder, that's kind of my question is, and not to hyper-focus on this, but what is the issue? You know, you know, that's what I've had, I'm kind of listening to it, I've picked out kind of different issues is agendas were amended late with business. So is there a rule that can be put in place by the Board of Policy that could be put in place such as 40 hours in advance, the agenda has to be posted, the final agenda has to be posted, you know, so you put more than the 24-hour requirement. Now, that can be cumbersome if you have to have an emergency meeting, you know, where, you know, we've had 24 hours or less, but you could put an exception in there. Is it the board needs more time to review the ordinances? That was one of those as well. So do we need to do a better job of delivering information as a packet to the board and the mayor so they have more time to review it? Is it to be more transparent to the public? Because when I look at this, you know, business and development, that's the one that public hearings, public comment, we just adopted that policy, so we had this very transparent policy and people knew where they would have the opportunity to speak, which was not necessarily the case then. So and then we send on anything that has a public hearing, a letter goes out to everybody within 180 feet. That was a transparency thing that we put in place related to a project a long time ago where the citizens were upset. That is not required by statute. So we've already kind of had these discussions here, but what is the issue, Alderman Corder, that we're zeroing in on? Because, like I said, 2 readings, I think, you know, that's your discretion if you want to do it. You already have that discretion. If there's something we need to improve on, what do we need to improve? I think you guys have identified maybe delivery of information to the board, delivery of information to the citizens and whatnot. But agenda posting, the short answer, Alderman Corder, is, you know, they make it, some cities have made it more restrictive to say, hey, the agenda can't be amended after the Thursday before the meeting. If it is, the city administrator has to explain why it's an emergency, and the board can consider whether they're not going to take it up, whether they're going to take it up at that time. Now, that is directed towards late amendments to the agenda. There's all these kind of issues that have been identified, and I think you guys have kind of addressed some solutions, but I don't know that you guys have really talked about how the ordinance addresses it.
Well, that's my concern as being a new alderman. You know, my second meeting here is to see the word "not" put on anything that concerns me, that says we cannot do something if we need to. And I think if we're going to move forward forward with this, we definitely need some type of emergency clause put in there. And I don't disagree at all with Alderman Cullum to be more transparent, to give people more time. And maybe with the help of Brandy and getting some of this information out a little earlier, or doing different things to give the public an opportunity to see those, pulling the information down. I mean, those that want to see it to be there. So I'm just concerned, again, that we don't want to start tearing things down that we're not totally sure of why they're there this early, myself, this early in the game.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can give us kind of an idea of what,
Where you want us,
well, no,
where you want you to go?
what problems you want to address, because that, I mean, you know, there are other solutions to consider. There are other ideas to consider. I think there's been some good ideas that have been thrown around. I know Brandy had talked about hyperlinking the agendas with the packets where it's all in one place. Had asked me questions about that a couple of months ago, and so I know that has percolated around as, an ability to kind of bring everything together for a meeting at one location, because, to be honest with you, we think it'll reduce some of the sunshine requests after the meeting if everything's on there that is talked about at the meeting, just from an efficiency standpoint. But, what are the issues you guys, and maybe, like you said, Mayor, it's something for a work session. But even for a work session, it would be great to kind of have an idea of what needs to be addressed, and then this is absolutely an option. There's no doubt this is an option that will, on every ordinance, will require readings at separate meetings. But there are other options out there, and I do think there's experiences from other cities that you guys can take to balance that transparency and efficiency scale, if you will, and not make it more bureaucratic. Because my concern is how many of these ordinances that are here between 16 and 21, there was no opposition, no concern about, that you're now going to put a 2-week hold on. How does that operate efficiently as government, and how do you carve it out? And a lot of cities have tried to carve it out and struggled with being efficient and being transparent. I think there is some experiences from other cities that can be taken away.
Well, doesn't this, I guess, in my question, does this go back to Alderman Cullum? I guess this was your request on that, to do this. Can you get us some more information of why, or what we need to do, or what your feelings are that the board hasn't done in the past, and what we need to do to try to make it better, I guess? Because like I said, I'm a little confused at where we're at this point in time.
Sure. I think Chris brought up a lot of good stuff, as well as the mayor and the rest of the aldermen. I guess it's not my intention to, make it harder for the citizens or the city. And like you said, I get that there's going to be some stuff that comes up last minute, as with everything. I think for now, I guess, like Chris said, maybe we look at how other cities have been doing it, and or, like you said, Alderman, make some kind of, if it's a last minute thing, either 2/3 or a full majority or something like that, some kind of clause or something. Because, right now, if it's set up to where, maybe that's my misunderstanding of how it's written, if we have the power to, hey, I need more time on this, or the people told me they want more information on this, we can table it to the next meeting or something like that, so.
Yeah, absolutely. You have that discretion now, Alderman Coleman. I think, like I said before, it's the end of the meeting, and it becomes almost robotic, where everybody's like, motion to approve. Mayor, I'm not saying your voice is
fully
robotic.
agree.
I didn't mean to offend
It
you.
is that way. I'm monotone.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes you don't understand the procedure you're going through, but you are voting. I mean, it probably makes sense now that we do motion and then we do a vote, that's there. Maybe being aware of that, and I appreciate that comment very much, Alderman Coleman, because that makes a lot of sense to me. Being aware of it, and then administratively, we can take some of these changes back and report back, and then kind of see what feedback, the board and the mayor are getting to do it. Because the one that makes me that I was part of the meeting in 2016 with the home builders and the HBA, and it was to address these comments on our process takes too long, it's too difficult to deal with. And that has been a noise that has been generated. I've been here 17, 18 years, and it's been around for a long time with the City of Warrenton's process. And, you know, it's died down. That voice of we're too cumbersome or difficult, I think that was the outcome of that meeting. And what makes me a little bit nervous is stuff coming through planning and zoning. You just take a typical subdivision that maybe sometimes subdivisions are very controversial, but take one that's not controversial. If they have to do a rezone, they're going to do a public hearing at planning and zoning, which has a requirement that's going to put them off. They're going to have, that project could come in 3 pieces. It doesn't always come that way. Sometimes it comes in 2, sometimes it comes in 3, sometimes it comes in 1, but you potentially have a project that's already gone through a public hearing, public advertisement, letters mailed to the residents within 180 feet, is heard at planning and zoning, that then goes to the Board of Aldermen with your new public comment process adopted, that there's an agenda item that says you can speak on, this will be your opportunity to speak on this topic, where before it was just general public comment. Now we identify, this is where we want you to speak on it, and then let's say there's no objection, that's a month and a half that developer could be delayed if it comes in 3 parts. And so that's where I get a little bit of, you know, maybe there's a in between, or maybe there's some fixes we can do administratively to put in place to try to address some of the concerns. And I know you all have always wanted to be as transparent as possible. So, you know, those are discussions we've had about what other cities have done in the past, and we can continue to have those.
I will say, you know, a lot of the issues sometimes we've had in the past is when we bring this up, sometimes it can get heated, and it seems like everybody's getting negative against each other, and I think that's a misconception, and that's what I wanted to avoid today, was that, you know, there is a lot of things in here that are good, and I think for transparency, it is good to bring that up, and I think accountability is always another good thing to bring up. It's what we should be held to, is accountability on how we do things. You know, I'm glad the discussion went this way, to be honest. It always becomes nervous when you bring that up, because people get defensive. They really do. I think that's the truth. But if you take it from a different perspective, that, hey, it's always good to be held accountable on the actions and be able to have people speak. That's what the city government's here to do, is to listen to the citizens, and that's exactly what Alderman Cullum's doing, is he's had some people come to him and he's brought this up. So, you know, I for one appreciate it. I do think there were some good points brought up, and I do think there are some probably finite things we need to look at and maybe discuss. But, you know, either way, I hate putting this on your back, but I will ask, does the board, are we wanting to table it or proceed with it tonight? I mean, before we even get to that bill, we can do that as we speak.
I mean, Alderman Schultz, I did want to go before you. I didn't know if you had a comment. I mean, I think we've probably got enough information and ideas that we can kind of workshop this and bring some ideas back if you want to put it on.
Well, and I hate to say this, but Alderman Cullum's the one that brought this. I don't want to stomp all over his head. I kind of want to leave that option to see if he wants to lead that, to either proceed with it or, and I don't mean to put it all on your back, but I do want to give you the grace of that.
No, I appreciate that, Mayor. No, I totally agree, and like you said, Chris, I'm open for ideas. So yeah, I recommend that we table it for now, or however.
Yeah, that's good. I think I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the hyperlink agendas, I think, really is a neat feature, because basically you go to a page and it's a PDF, and everything that's on the agenda has the document hyperlinked in the agenda. It takes some, you know, we're kind of figuring out the tech and the ability to make sure it's reliable, but we've had this discussion for a while about, if we have everything in one place, it probably reduces the burden on staff to produce everything after the meeting. I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback you get from the public. And, you know, I think if we can get this hyperlink agenda up and running, I think people are going to like the fact that everything's in one place.
So I guess my question to Counselor and to Melody, do we need to do a motion on tabling the bill for further information?
Yeah, you guys could do that now and just put it on for a future agenda.
Okay.
And, or we can just put it on for a future discussion. The bill can always be put back on the agenda at a point in the future. I mean, this will be part of our discussion as well.
I'll make a motion that we table it for now until we get more information.
I'll second that.
Any second?
Second, Alderman Schultz.
Motion made by Alderman Coleman, seconded by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote.
Alderman Crump?
Yes.
Alderman Quarter?
Yes.
Alderman Cullum? Alderman Jaspering?
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 to table.
Randy, I do have a quick question. On the agenda, do we have a time limit of when someone can put something on? Do we have a cutoff?
Usually it's 24 hours in
24
advance.
hours? Okay.
But our agendas go out the Friday before the meeting, so you have, pretty much Friday afternoon and Monday that there could possibly be changes.
Gotcha.
So let's make note of that, and if we do a workshop on this, it'll give us something to talk about, maybe making that cutoff a little more wider, broad, and then we can add in what we'd like to see in the emergency situations and the explanation behind the emergencies. I think that's something we discussed tonight, so let's just definitely make note of that, to be able to start somewhere. Is that okay?
That's
Fine.
And I think this is going to help us as well.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of gray. There's not been a lot of attention given to this, in a long time. So, I mean, there's been some good discussions among staff about just how to make this better. So I think this is going to be good all the way around.
I do too. I agree. All right, next we'll hear from City Administrator Brandy Walters.
Good evening. The first thing that I have for you tonight is the sales tax holiday. In the past, the city has always participated in this. Just a little bit of history. It's where for a weekend when folks are going back to school and they're doing shopping, it's so that way they don't get charged state sales tax. If the city opts to also be involved in that, then they don't get charged the city sales tax just for that period of time. This year, it's August 6th through August 8th. If we choose to participate, we don't need to do anything. If we choose not to participate, then we need to get an ordinance on the next meeting because that has to be done 45 days prior. So it's just a matter tonight whether or not you want to participate again.
We've participated every year. Do we need a motion to approve the participation or just all agree?
I think you need the motion to opt out. Isn't
Right.
that what it is? Okay. So if you don't do anything,
So if we do nothing, it's
Right.
ran.
Continued on.
And just for the public's record, how much is the state portion that we are forfeiting? Is it 4 cents?
I
less?
think so. I think it's like 4 point something %, I believe. Hold on a second. I brought that with me. It does not have it on here. But I think you're right. I think it's like 4 point, and there's all those regulations of how much you can spend per thing. Yeah, it's 4.225.
Anybody in favor of opting out? Well, I believe we're going to go ahead and proceed with it from the looks of the Alderman. Even the ones that can't see in front except their heads are not nodding, so.
The next thing that I have for you tonight is the TAP grant. There is a bill later on the agenda, and that is for the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission program. That's the agreement for the TAP grant that we're just basically giving the authority for the mayor to sign that agreement. That's the TAP grant that we've been working on in the past meetings. For anybody that's not aware, that's to do sidewalks down Veterans Memorial, so that we got a grant to help pay for that. And that's what this is for. So just so you know, there's a bill later.
Anybody have any questions on that? We can probably go into more explanation if anybody needs it.
That goes all the way out to the Quantum Shopping Center out there, right? The Sidewalk.
And it is a grant that, just money for the state, or from the state to the city of Warrington, correct?
Right. And this grant pays for the first 2 phases of that.
Okay.
But we had money in the budget already to pay for the 3rd phase, so that'll go in the next year's budget.
Okay, perfect.
The next thing that I have for you tonight is the tourism recommendations. So tourism is, that's a tax for any of you new folks, that's a tax that's paid for at the hotels, and it can only be used for certain things. So that money in the past, it has to be used for things that draw people into the city. So Fall Festival, for example. That's where we get the money to pay for that. So it has to be stuff that draws tourism to our town that we have to use that money for. One of their recommendations, or their recommendations for this, they're also, just so you know, back up just a little bit, is that they are a recommendation board, so they have to bring it here to get that finalization. They were asking for approval of $18,559.70 in expenses, and this pays for the event coordinator hours. It pays for the expenses for the city yard sale and hometown Christmas. And this is all items that are already in their budget. We're just transferring it. So we need a motion for approval on that.
Just the $18,559.70.
Do you need it separate? Two separate motions? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay.
So the other recommendation that they would like to make is, last year we didn't have the Fall Festival, so there's funds still left over from that, from not having the Fall Festival, and they would like to wrap that into the Downtown Streetscape to start getting that process going. So the Downtown Streetscape is where we're putting greenery and updating the sidewalks to ADA, crosswalks, all of that stuff, getting downtown more updated. And they would like to move those expenses, or that money, over to that part of the budget, so that a way we can go ahead and get that part rolling. So they'd like to transfer that
What
money.
we did in front of, I guess, what is it, Blue Anchor and Luminese?
Yes,
So like when we.
Like that.
That was, if you guys remember, that was such a lifted area, it was hard for people to step down off of, or what be it, kind of transferred it more to an ADA compliance. It was a lot of money.
yes.
But it was well worth it and needed. That's part of what we're talking about by ADA compliance on the sidewalks. I mean,
Right.
And I'm just saying that because we have 3 new aldermen that weren't here for some of those discussions.
That's true.
And talking about how, when we took the trees out, a lot of the business owners were complaining about the trees and it was ruining the sidewalk or pushing up the sidewalk, and it was dropping the fruits that were being smashed and carried into the stores. But there's still a cry for more greenery.
Correct.
Back on Main Street. So that's something we've been talking with business owners and Downtown Association about trying to do. So that's just a little background on the streetscape stuff. Any questions on any of those? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Tourism Committee's recommendation for $103,559.70.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Crump, seconded by Alderman Quarter. Roll call vote.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Jaspering,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
So operationally, these are just some updates that I have for you guys. Fall Festival this year is September 25th. And due to the death of Rusty Young, I don't know if anybody has heard that from POCO, because our original band was Pure Prairie League, POCO, and Orleans. Due to his death, they are not going to be touring. POCO will not, so they are replacing them with Atlanta Rhythm Section. If anybody knows who that is. So those are the 3 bands that will.
You don't know?
All I know is they sing that song.
You're past a certain age, and I do. So.
So that's who will be replacing them this year, and that's on September 25th.
Has anybody else got hit with who some of these bands are? And it's funny because they ask, and then I start listing some of the bands like Orleans, some of the songs that they've sang, and they're like, I didn't know that's who that was. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly who that is. But I think it's funny sometimes. I know it seems like us old folks know that, and the young folks go, what? But they always come out and enjoy it too, it seems like, so.
But they always listen to our music.
Right. That's right. It's cool when they're in the privacy of their house with their mom and dad. Not so cool when they're out there with everybody else.
Brandy, what did you say the dates were on that? September?
September 25th.
25th. Thank you.
Do we still have Bushwhacks coming for the upper stage? Excellent.
For the car show.
Great, great.
The other thing that I have for you tonight is Mayor Watson contacted me, and he would like to pass on the National Night Out. Some of you might know what that's about.
Yes.
So they do it for 2 years, and then they pass it on to another municipality to do it for 2 years. It's an event, and it's usually free to the public. It's just basically building neighborhood camaraderie, police I guess, are involved in this, police and emergency services, to kind of have that community partnership type thing. And they have in the past, I had never heard of it, and I'm sorry, but, so I did some research, and apparently it's a big thing. They provided drinks, and they invited like poison control and conservationists, and had all these people that set up booths, and at each booth they had games and stuff, takeaways for the people. Like I said, it's a free event, and if we opt in to do that, we would have it for 2 years. It's in August. This year it would be August 3rd. I don't remember what day. It's a day. It's during the week, and it's they did it for from 5 to 9, but it's the same. Everybody across, I guess, across the nation does it on that same day.
So did anybody go to when Truesdale held it? I actually went just to see what it was like, because it sounded interesting. It was tremendous. I couldn't believe all the, the kids and the parents that came out. I think they even had like an up-and-coming country music singer out there, and he sang for a little while. People hung out there for a while. I was kind of amazed. I thought they'd just come see it and leave, or, jump in the fire truck and, look around, or the police car and see the lights go off. They stuck around for the music. They stuck around for everything else. And I think Truesdale even found somewhere in their budget, or somebody sponsored it, and they were able to give out hats or shirts or something to that extent, supporting National Night Out and supporting all type of EMS and the area. I don't know. I found it very interesting that they did it right in their park, and it was packed. You had to find a place to park somewhere, and you had to walk pretty far to get there. It was just,
Wow.
It was kind of fun, and it was nice. So if, there again, if you have questions about it, I know Mayor Watson would definitely, give anything that he could. He'd probably give all the information they did to collect to be able to do it. They'd probably hand it over to us just to support it. So, I don't know. We got two chiefs here, Warrenton Fire Chief and the Chief of Police. Did you guys hear anything in response? I guess come up to the podium and say it if you can, but did you guys hear any response to the National Night Out? Yeah, I know, I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry. Sorry, Chief Aislip.
No, I thought it was a great event. We had the water patrol out there, and all different kinds of agencies out, so they got to see a little bit of everything, and I think that everybody had a great time. I think they were giving out hot dogs and things like that. So and I think it was a hat that they gave out.
You're right, I think it was.
So no, I think it was a great event. I think it brought everybody together, night out, something fun to do for 4 hours.
It was.
And we typically send cars and personnel, and it's well received, so.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but sometimes fire, police, even ambulance, you're there on bad scenes, whether it be because you're called there or because of a fire or because of a medical emergency. It's not always the best scene to be there to be able to relate to somebody on. This does give that PR of it's friendly, it's nice, it's slowed down, you can talk to them, and it's not an emotional scene. So, I don't know, I would support it. But there again, I don't get to vote. So, do you need a motion?
I think if you decide to do so, if yes, participate, or if you don't.
How about this? Is there anybody that would want to opt out of supporting this? I think it's the easier way to go. So everybody's in support of it.
All right, great. We'll get that worked on then. Other than that, that's all that I have for you.
And I hate to say it, I think, and I'll admit this in front of everybody, I think Mayor Watson did either email or text me about that, and I probably forgot to get back to him. I think I mentioned it to you about six or 8 months ago, but we weren't out of the COVID stuff yet and everything else. So my apologies to Mayor Watson for not getting back to him right away on that. I'm glad he still pursued it. Anything else?
I did not.
Did you have something?
It was August 3rd, you said?
Yes.
Thank you.
So as we get closer, is there any way we can talk a little bit more about that, or maybe
Yes.
discuss what we'd like to see? If you guys got ideas or you think anything more, just bring it up.
Where would you have it at?
That's the thing, I don't know. I mean, we could do a park like they did, or we could even propose as Alderman to maybe shut it down as a city on Main Street and
Shut a street down, yeah.
or have the truck to be able to pull and, lengthwise so everybody can go to different stations. And then maybe that would showcase some of the businesses on Main Street to be able to get some, come out and do whatever they want to do too. But I mean, I think that's something between now and August 3rd, we can collaborate with, businesses as well as Downtown Association and ourselves, as well as any EMA or EMS organizations, poison control, what be it that we would look at wanting to be there, or maybe would approach us as wanting to be there to be able to come up with something. But I mean, it's good now to start thinking about it and maybe come up with ideas. Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Director of Operations, John Struckoff.
Good evening. Tonight I have for you the North State Highway 47 Sidewalk project. We opened bids on that last week. The low bidder is R.L. Pearson Construction out of Poplar Bluff for $1,699,999. We only received 2 bids on this project. We were hoping for more, but... So what we're looking for tonight is a contingent on accepting this bid, because tomorrow is MoDOT's meeting to formally accept the bid. So we didn't want to delay the project any further than we had to. So if we do a contingent on MoDOT's approval tonight, that would be, MoDOT would approve it tomorrow. We can move forward with the project then. There's some highlighted areas. Can you explain those, or is it just a big money difference between the two?
That was yes. This was the bid tabs that was sent to MoDOT for their concurrence. These were a couple areas that they didn't account for. It was substantially more in these areas than what they were expecting. The project is actually bid higher than the engineer's estimate, and these were the areas that they defined that were substantially more than the engineer's estimate. The project as a total will still be under budget, though, as far as the total project goes. We saved money on the
Acquisition of the properties.
Yep, the easement acquisition, a couple of other things on the front half we saved some money on, so.
So, hang on a
So
second.
there's $100,000 difference between the estimate and the proposed on that, what is that, the concrete culverts?
Which line item are you looking at? I'm sorry.
703, is it the 713, 4041?
Yeah.
Must be buying their culverts somewhere way more expensive.
Yeah, that's $102,000 difference.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell where they might have found a couple different areas. Like, every contractor bids them differently. They'll stick some other cost into some other items that may not be listed. If they have to haul in dirt from a different area or something and that's not a line item, they'll have to add that somewhere else, whether it be mobilization is where they normally put that. But I mean, it's hard to tell from person to person, but the bottom number, how close they were, 1.699 to 1.735 on a almost $1.5 million job. That's a pretty close bid. Normally we see a lot farther apart than that. So,
John, I know we talked about this before, but just for public and everything, I know I'd asked you about the sidewalks. Is it correct that after these are built, that it then would fall to MoDOT for upkeeping them, et cetera?
correct. They'll be in MoDOT's right away.
Okay.
So, and just to fill you in, we did have a meeting with MoDOT about that, because that was a big concern from some of the citizens, is we put $1.5 million into this, then they rip it out, and do we have to pay another $1.5 million? One of the higher engineers from MoDOT, I think she was one of 3, is that correct, Ms. Golf? Came in and said that, no, that's absolutely not the way it works, that anything in the right of way that we put in, that they would have to rip out, they will replace and have to replace. So, it was because we had apprehension about that as well. But that was something we pushed forward with after she came into the meeting and said that.
That's the reason we went for the right-of-way rather than an easement. The right, it just extended the MoDOT right-of-way. So all of this project will be done in MoDOT right-of-way now.
And I guess I should add, she also said that they don't have plans anywhere in the next 10 to 15 years of expanding North 47. That was something else she added too, which everybody was in question about. as well as when are they going to do that if it's growing? So,
Should have been done 20 years ago.
I'd like to hear
I don't
that.
think any of us disagree.
Orange Blossom added how many units extra coming in? Probably 100 and,
That number was
120
up.
something units maybe? Yeah.
Any other questions on it?
Just what was the time frame on this?
So we're having a pre-construction meeting next week. We should have a notice to proceed by the end of this month, and we'll be rolling, so it'll be happening pretty quick now.
All right. Entertain a motion to accept or it's not
Contingent.
accepting the bid because actually MoDOT's going to accept the bid, aren't they?
We have the contingent,
Okay, have the contingent bid of RL, is it Persons Construction and Company?
RL Pearson's.
Pearson, sorry.
Yep.
I think I can either expand or get glasses, one of the two.
It'll be contingent on MoDOT's approval, is what it'll be.
What's the time frame on this?
Time frame is
Completion, yeah.
end of October, November. Depends on rain days and delays, but should be done by October.
How Missouri weather is. It could monsoon for the next 2 months and really swamp things out. I'll entertain a motion to approve it as submitted, being the low bid.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Deloy, seconded by Alderman Schultz. Roll call vote.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Jaspering,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Finance Officer Dana Palaska.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have before you a list of claims for your approval this evening. Claims totaling $195,192.60. Were there any questions related to that list of claims?
Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve the accounts payable in the amount of $195,192.60.
Second.
You guys decide, who'd you get for second? Okay. Motion made by Alderman Cullum, seconded by Alderman Quarter. Roll call vote.
Alderman Jaspering,
Yes.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. In addition, you have financials for the month of March, so year ending as of March. You'll notice that in the general fund, revenues are about $8,000 above budget. So a combination of sales tax, which is over budget for this point in the year, about $245,000 in the general fund. Again, we're seeing that margin decrease slightly each month, so we expect to end the year at about 10% above budget in the general fund, or $174,000. You'll notice that some items below budget, though, such as pool operations, again, with COVID concerns, we have not been open the entire time, or at least not fully open. You'll also notice that police revenues, you'll see a decrease there related to court fines of about $82,000, and in court revenues, about $31,000, again, related to COVID concerns and actual in-person court not being open at this point. In permits, you'll see that they are $26,000 above budget, so we've had additional new homes come in for permits, occupancy inspections, business licenses. In operating expenses in the general fund, they're about $381,000 below budget. So several items in there, such as the cancellation of the Fall Festival, the vacant position in special events for part of the year. Pool saw reduced operations, so reduced expenses related to that of about $63,000. We've also seen some other wage-related vacancies during the year in the general fund to about an additional $76,000. In the water and sewer fund, revenues are about $31,000 above budget. Water sewer sales to residential and commercial customers, about $91,000 of that above budget. Connection fees for new construction, $25,000 above budget. We see industrial sewer, which is primarily the Coke packaging plant is down by about $46,000. Operating expenses in the water and sewer fund are about $195,000 below budget. Again, we see wage-related items, vacancies and such, $66,000 below budget. A few supply items such as meters, $23,000 below budget, and often that's just a timing issue. By year end, we usually finish purchasing all of them. We are below budget on several repair items just because they may not have seen as much of a demand this year, so far anyway, such as pump and I repair. They're about $58,000 below budget right now. So those are just some highlights from those financials. Were there any questions related to them for the month of March?
Any questions for Dana? Dana, I'm going to say something. You've always done this, and I appreciate it. I think it is easy for those of us that have been here, but also those that are new to the board, that you show those highlights and that you explain those things. I think it helps out a lot. So I just wanted to say, since I've never said it before, I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're from Aquatics Director, Lisa Kramer.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. You have in front of you the monthly numbers of membership and activities for the month of April. I also want to let you all know that this month we did a bulk mailing to the area municipalities that reached over close to 5,000 homes. It was a postcard that gave the homeowner an opportunity to bring that postcard into the pool between now and September to come use the pool for free for a daily pass for 4 people. So we're hoping to see those come in. We've seen a couple of them come in now. And we've also gotten 1 membership off of them so far. So hopefully that will continue. We are in the process of getting the outdoor pool drained, cleaned, painted, and hopefully the rain goes away. We will be able to open on time, which will be May 29th, the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. Starting then as well, we are going to be open for full operations. So there will be no more reservations that will need to be made. The hours will be open every day, Monday through Friday, starting at noon. For residents and non-residents who aren't members to come use both the facilities. And we will hopefully be able to offer some birthday parties as well outside this summer. Does anybody have any questions?
How do you like your sign?
I love my sign.
It's huge.
I wish that I had more than one person come to the pool to apply, but that person came. She actually lives in the neighborhood next to the pool and had no idea that I would be hiring for lifeguards. So,
Hey, good enough.
So if nothing else, I got one out of it. I am desperately always looking for lifeguards and swim instructors. We will have a lifeguard class starting May 21st. So anybody interested in being a lifeguard or swim instructor or know anybody, please send them our way so that we really can open for full capacity. If we don't have the lifeguards,
We'll be advertising that on our Facebook and on our, okay, excellent.
And it was on that
Always good to check
postcard.
it, so, excellent.
Is that something we could work with the high school also? I mean, have we been pushing something there?
Yes, I actually went to the high school this past Friday during lunch period. And I sat at a table and tried to talk to as many of the students as I could. I got 28 names and phone numbers of the high school students, of which I had 10 respond to a text that I sent out that are coming for interviews this week.
Excellent.
Of which I already had 2 no-shows, but I had 2 other ones that showed up instead. So if I pull out 7 to 10 people for this, that'll be great. I'm also advertising at the senior center. They'll be sending home flyers with the Meals on Wheels and other activities that hopefully they'll start having, looking for lifeguards of the senior age. So somebody looking for a second income, some part-time money or are retired and looking to start a new career as a lifeguard, they can come be at the pool.
Right.
So, anybody?
I don't have enough going on already. I'm going to go over there and work with Lisa.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make note of your sign. I almost thought it was a detour for a minute until I read it.
It is. It's a
Detour
detour
to your place. Exactly.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Maintenance and Grounds Director Brad Boozy-Cruz.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. We have a kind of a short version of my report since I'm going to be on the first meeting of the month now. This is 2 weeks, or not quite 2 weeks, so I don't know if y'all have any questions about that.
No, but I do have a comment to let you know on. Went out there with my daughter for the Binkley Woods for some pictures, obviously prom on Saturday. Actually had the opportunity to talk to some people that were in town from Arizona, and I think, I'm trying to remember the other state, just commented on how well kept it was and how nice they like to be able to go for a walk around the park and how well it was maintained. So
Well, good. I
kudos to
appreciate it.
you.
I'll pass that along to Wayne and the rest of the crew. The other thing I have for you tonight is I was contacted today by Eric Rashi with the Marine Corps League, and there's a program called Honor Your DNA. I don't know if you're all familiar with this. It's a group that's going around, and what they do is they clean veterans' tombstones, and they're kind of they're targeting like World War I, World War II, the white marble headstones that are, over time they get the mold on them and stuff, and it's hard to get off and stuff. And they have a product called 2D that is used, and it's a biochemical. It's not a, everybody thinks, well, we use bleach, do this. Well, bleach and stuff is the worst thing to put on marble because it will literally disintegrate the headstone. So this product comes out, they're going to try to get a couple kits of it and come up, and they would like permission to come into the cemetery and just work on these headstones. And I told them I didn't have a problem with it. I had a meeting tonight. I would come to see you all and see if you all had any objection to them coming in and doing this. They're doing it for free. It's just a thing that the Marine Corps League is doing. They're trying to get a little more support, a little more, maybe some volunteers and stuff to help them. So I didn't know if you all have any objection. Otherwise, I will.
Not here.
Sounds great.
All right.
All in favor of it.
I don't think we have any objection to it, but I think maybe we could put it on there for advertisement for volunteers and link somewhere that we can on our Facebook or on our website to maybe help out.
They're meeting Thursday with the bigger group, and then they're wanting to have it done by Memorial Day.
Oh, wow.
So we are on a very tight.
Alderman Cullum, is that going to be this Thursday at the Marine Corps League meeting?
Correct. Yep, this Thursday.
Brad, I would volunteer my grandfather's tombstone out there to be first.
Okay. Well, I'll make a note of that. I'll put a flag by it. The other thing I have, at the last meeting, we did the Arbor Day drawing, or the poster contest, and the tree has been ordered. It was hopefully, if the rain stops, it should get here this week, and then the plaque should be here any day now. So we'll have that up, and then we'll get some pictures of that, put that on Facebook and stuff. So anything else?
Cool.
Any questions?
Where will that tree be going in at?
It's going over at Dyer is where it's going. We have it's already been marked. If you drive by there's a red stake over there is what they wanted. So we got it put over there. It's kind of, since we've been losing so many of those over there, we're trying to get a few there, and then we're going to start with probably out at the pool park. We got a few spots where we like to put some ones around the lake and stuff. So do that.
Very good.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, bills to ordinance. I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of bill number 23-21.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump.
An ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission and the City of Warrenton, Missouri for the Transportation Alternatives Funds Program Agreement for sidewalk improvements along the south side of Veterans Memorial Parkway.
I'll entertain a motion for the second reading and of
So moved.
Bill number 2321. Gotcha. Motion made by Alderman Quarter, seconded by Alderman Cullum.
An ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission and the City of Warrenton, Missouri for the Transportation Alternatives Funds Program Agreement for sidewalk improvements along the south side of Veterans Memorial Parkway.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Deloy,
Yes.
Alderman Schultz,
Yes.
Alderman Crump,
Yes.
Alderman Quarter,
Yes.
Alderman Cullum,
Yes.
Alderman Jaspering.
Yes.
Bill passes 6-0. Bill number 24-21 was agreed upon or voted upon to table for further information and will be seen in the near future, I'm sure, after we discuss it a little bit more and see what other cities have and get more information on it. With that, we'll ask for a motion to close the regular Board of Alderman meeting at this time.
Second.
Motion made by Alderman Schultz, seconded by Alderman Crump. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay.
Go to my house tomorrow.
We are so adjourned.